TeschoVirus EncephaloMyelitis. So the history of the disease. The Talfin and the Techen disease were thought to be two separate diseases with different viruses. It was then discovered that the two diseases were caused by the same virus, but they had different virulence variants. So the occurrence of the disease. Chechens is endemic to Madagascar. It was formerly found in Middle and Eastern Europe. This is where it got the name. Chechens was a German town which is now located on the Czech Republic and Polish border. To this day, it is a sporadic disease in Russia and Romania. Talfins, which is the other disease, is widespread. It's found in Europe, America, and Australia. So the etiology of the disease. The porcine techovirus has 11 serotypes. Serotype 1 causes two diseases. In the virulent strain, it causes techens, and in the milder strain, it causes talfins. Serotype 2 to 11 have much milder clinical signs. Porcine techovirus is a part of the TeschoVirus genus, which is a part of Picornviridae. For the epidemiology, it is spread by animals in the feces. It can also be found in the environment as it's non-enveloped, which means it has good resistance. Asymptomatic animals can carry and shed the virus. It is also found in raw pork meat products. The virus is stenoxin, it can only affect pigs. The virus is shed in the feces for around 7 to 8 weeks. It has a long shedding period. And the virus sheds before clinical signs can be seen. It has an asymptomatic replication. For the pathogenesis of the disease, there are 3 phases. So the virus enters the body through the mouth, orally, per os, and then asymptomatic replication happens in the gut. This is the first phase. This is the enteral phase. There's no diarrhea. Then viremia occurs. This is the second phase. And then it gets into the central nervous system, such as the brain and cerebellum, and this is where we see the third phase, the neural phase, where we can see the clinical signs. Techens causes necrosis and degeneration of neurons. And the secondary replication happens in the ventral horns of the spinal cord. Another more unique form of pathogenesis, it can enter the body orally and then affect the olfactory nerve, which causes central nervous system signs. For the clinical signs, the incubation period is 1 to 3 weeks. For techens, the clinical signs are more severe. It can affect all age groups, but in piglets and growers, it can cause ataxia and convulsions. It can also cause placid paralysis, respiratory muscle paralysis, which can lead to suffocation and death, and hyperesthesia. This means the animals are extremely sensitive to touch. In the adult pigs, we can see hind limb paralysis. It's usually milder, so they can have movement disorders, and they may recover. Talfins, which is a less virulent strain, affects animals less than 4 months old, so in piglets around 3 to 8 weeks old. It causes ataxia and transient hind limb paralysis. It makes the piglet weak, and there's a possible recovery. In serotype 2 to 11, they have much milder clinical signs. The piglets can have crumbling movements, but not a complete paralysis. In the pathology, there are no gross pathological lesions, so there's no clinical signs in the enteral or viremic phase. In the histopathology, we can see necrosis of the grey matter and neuron degeneration, so a lymphocytic infiltration of the neurons. For the diagnosis, a live piglet is needed as the decomposition of the neurons is very fast after they die. To detect the virus directly, you need to do a real-time PCR. And to detect the virus indirectly, you can do viral neutralization. In endemic herds, it's frequently asymptomatic. For the differential diagnosis, it can be mistaken for rabies because of the central nervous system signs, and Ojeski's, African swine fever, and classical swine fever. For the treatment, there is none, and there's no vaccination, so you need to focus on prevention. For control, it's a notifiable disease in some countries, such as Hungary, but it's not IOE listed. So you need to follow the general epidemiology rules, such as movement restrictions, all in, all out, biosecurity, and no import on raw meat. For countries that are free of the Techen virus, there needs to be stamping out and protection and surveillance zones and movement restrictions.